Life in Tibet before Chinese annexation. Tibet used to be an independent nation. Then it became part of the People's Republic of China. That's what most Westerners know. But what was Tibet actually like as a country? And how long had it been independent? In the 13th and 14th centuries, Tibet was under Mongol rule. The Ming dynasty had some influence in the 17th century, but Tibet retained some autonomy during these times. In 1912, Tibet declared independence. It was a feudal serf society. Basically, it was a dictatorship of monks. Dalai Lamas ruled over this society. There was no democracy, freedom, or human rights. Serf slavery in Tibet was one of the worst. It lasted longer than American slavery. The serfs had no land and often suffered from hunger. They had to stay in their owners' manors. They were not allowed to leave. Just like chattel slavery, this serfdom transcended generations. The serfs were traded, transferred, presented, mortgaged, and exchanged. They had to ask their owners for permission to marry. After marriage, serfs were taxed for their newborn children. Insubordinate servants could have their hands or feet cut off. Capital punishment involved brutal dismemberment. Many monasteries and manors had prisons. These places included torture chambers. Most Tibetans lacked basic health care and social services. The aristocrats owned 95% of the land and livestock. More than 90% of the people were peasants and serfs. They endured heavy taxes and forced labor. Generation after generation, poverty got worse. Tibet embraced Buddhism in the 8th century. The monks became overlords, enslaving believers. Tibetan feudal serfdom was a deadly social ideology. The mind and dignity of the people were controlled. The Dalai Lama held absolute power over serfs' lives. The ruling class monopolized education. Serfs didn't become free when they went to monasteries. They just changed masters. But things didn't become much better. When China intervened, the feudal system was dismantled. It was replaced by an even more brutal communist control. There were 6 million Tibetans in 1949. After the Chinese invasion, 1.2 million were killed. The Dalai Lama fled the country. More than 6,000 monasteries were destroyed. However, for many Tibetans, it did mean more freedom. The Tibetan language and culture have suffered the most, but those willing to play along have prospered. Today, Tibet is only nominally autonomous. It remains one of the most heavily policed regions. Even visiting it requires a special permit. Will things ever change for the better?